Well, you're all welcome. It's episode number 6 in series 1, the last episode, Mark, of our first series of this particular podcast, Employee 360, and it's been a fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great series altogether, hasn't it?
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant.
And once again, today we've got two great guests. We've got Loretta Dignam. She's from the Menopause Hub. How are you, Loretta? And we've got Punam Rane of Appistoki, Ireland. Punam, you're very welcome onto the show.
Thank you.
So we'll be chatting to Loretta and Punam in a few moments. First of all, as we do at the start of every episode, Mark, there's something we like to focus on. Now, the last 5 episodes, we really looked at employee security, engagement. We looked at goal setting and coaching. What do you want to talk about today? Okay.
First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to the podcast as it's the last in the series. It's been great to do the last 6 episodes. So, Brendan, today I'd like to discuss what is wellness, and in my case, what is financial wellness. So, having created a great working environment, how can we help employees feel well in various domains in their life, like physical, emotional, financial, social, and career? I just had a quote there from William Shakespeare, which is, "Our bodies are our gardens, our wills are our gardeners." So for me, based on this quote, I believe if you provide assistance to your employees in various domains in their life to be aware, have clarity, and understand the next steps they need to take, this will help them with their wellness.
Okay. And of course, you help employees with financial wellness, but can I ask a question, Mark? Are employees generally financially well?
Yeah. Look, in general, there's a broad range of financial wellness across employees. And, financial wellness doesn't mean being a millionaire, because, there are plenty of financially unwell millionaires. So for me, at a very basic level, being financially well is about being aware of your current day-to-day finances and acknowledging that. So when you have financial awareness, you know about your foundations, and that allows you to go ahead with your financial wellness and go for your meaning in your life.
Okay. So a word I'm hearing a lot of today then is wellness. So let's talk about that. Let's put a focus on that then.
Yeah.
And you take it from there. Let's focus on wellness and what that means.
Okay, so look, what I was trying to get to today was wellness is a buzzword at the moment, and I've been trying to, even myself over the last year or two, try and get a handle on it. And what wellness means for me is all about being aware of your current situation, understanding like what you want to achieve in your future, like so having clarity around your goals, and then having done that, having a clear plan how to get there and like to take the next steps. And it's amazing, those few things, they're hard to do and people find them hard to do. So really what I was trying to do, I suppose, throughout this podcast was create awareness around wellness and how you do it. So what I'd love to hear from the panel today is, what is wellness and how do you help your employees or clients with their wellness?
Okay. So a very important topic. And a very important buzzword. Let's start with Loretta Dignam from the Menopause Hub. Tell us, before you start answering that, and I'll keep it in front of you, Loretta, what is wellness? But tell us about Loretta Dignam first and your journey, and then tell us about the Menopause Hub.
Yeah, thank you for having me on today. I have spent over 30 years working in the corporate sector. I had stations, branding, strategy, all that sort of thing. And I worked for some major multinationals, Mars, Diageo, Kerry Group. I lectured in the Michael Smurfit Business School, been on the board of the Abbey Theatre, and so was moseying along in my life. And then when I was 49, my period stopped and I started to get hot flushes, and I realized I was menopausal. And first of all, I thought I was too young. I thought that women over in their late 50s, maybe early 60s, really were menopausal. But more importantly, I knew nothing about it. I was blindsided, unprepared, and missed all the previous 8 years of symptoms of perimenopause because I'd never heard of that. Anyway, my journey through menopause prompted me to do something about it and to set up Ireland's first dedicated menopause clinic. So I took a a jump from the corporate sector into the medical sector. And the clinic I opened 3 years ago, and it's going fantastically well. The other thing I've done is I've been an advocate for women in the area of menopause, trying to bring it out of the shadows into kind of the open air, and to bring it into kind of common conversation, and to try and break down the taboo around that. And then the other area that I've focused on is bringing menopause training, awareness, education to workplaces to help support menopausal women, because it can be a very challenging life stage for women, and we're anxious to keep women in the workplace. They have a lot to give back, and it can affect their performance, their absenteeism, and some women, about 12%, actually give up their jobs completely and leave the workplace. So it's something that hasn't been spoken about, something that hasn't been dealt with in the past. So that's an aspect of wellness that I'm focusing on.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And the journey that brought you to that point, it was a brave step, really, wasn't it? I mean, it's a huge shift from the corporate world, from where you were, to setting up, really, as you said, in the medical sector. But as we're talking about wellness today, can you talk to us about where you were with wellness at that point? How did you feel? Did it affect your confidence in any way? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I was blindsided by the whole menopause thing. So I used to get 20 to 30 hot flushes a day, every day. And at night, I had hot flushes and night sweats, and my duvet was on and off and on. And I'm a fantastic sleeper. And so my sleep was broken. And I can only describe myself as dragging myself through life at that point. I was at work. I was really doing my best. I had brain fog, which affects women. I had memory loss, which affects women. As I said, the lack of sleep, the hot flushes, the cardigan, jacket, whatever it was on and off. I could be mid-presentation presenting to senior management, to investors, to boards, and I would have a hot flush. And that can take you, off your stride, and it can interrupt your train of thought. I'm embarrassed myself. I'm embarrassed for the people in the room. I don't know what to say, and I'm trying to keep going. And it can be quite debilitating. And I would have described myself as having what you would say a flat mood. So I wasn't depressed, anything like that, but I kind of lost my mojo. And just everything. Instead of walking on a flat surface, it felt like climbing on an incline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt. And I felt like that for 3 years. Before I sought help. And to be honest, I felt going for help was almost like giving in, and that, really strong women power through, and surely I could power through this. So I also felt very lonely, actually, because none of my friends seemed to be going through it at the time. Nobody in work did, because I didn't want people to know my age, because the age association for me was over the hill, past it, menopausal woman, crazy lady, you never know what's going to happen here. She could cry, she could scream. And I didn't want any of those associations with me. Now, as it happens, women can people could work out my age, give or take 5 years anyway. Mm. So, but it was more the connotation and the association with menopause that I was not happy, and I was embarrassed to be declaring myself as that.
Yeah. And
challenging.
And I don't want to talk about your specific company at the time or anything like that. I'm not talking generalities from your experience since. It seems to me this must be something that an awful lot of women are faced with, that kind of feeling, that those pressures. Do employers generally recognize this, and do they do anything about it, or is it just completely swept under the carpet, do you think?
I'd say it isn't actually swept under the carpet. I'd say it's actually ignorance. And women, I've done research, and 80% of women are unprepared for menopause. And I would consider myself to be, reasonably intelligent, reasonably well educated. I was totally unprepared. 66% know little or nothing about menopause. And I knew hot flushes and no periods, and that's kind of little or nothing. So I don't think it's that employers are ignoring it. I'd say they're just unaware. And a lot of time the women themselves are unaware. So therefore they're not sure what's happening. and therefore, how do you expect the employer? And I think it's a whole awareness and education piece for the women, for men, and for employers.
I see. And the Menopause Hub, which, what a fantastic thing to do, to be honest with you, to really take head on something that you found to be such an issue for you, and to turn it into something now that helps so many other people. Can you tell us a little bit about the Menopause Hub? Do you reach out to employers at all? Is that something, or is it just for the women themselves?
So we have a clinic, and the clinic has 7 doctors. We have a psychologist, we have a dietitian and nutritionist, we have a women's health physio, and we have an acupuncturist. So we try to offer a kind of an holistic solution to women to help them. But from an employer's perspective, I've been on the board of the Abbey, and I chaired their Gender Equality Committee. And that was in 2016. There was the centenary programme to celebrate the 1916 and so on. And there was one play in it written by a woman, and it was touring schools. Mm-hmm. So there was a backlash against that, and rightly so. So I chaired their Gender Equality Committee to make change in the Abbey, and then subsequently to roll that out into the theatre sector in Ireland. And therefore I joined the dots and said, surely there must be a way to change policy around menopause. So we offer education and awareness programs to managers, to staff, to HR, and to create menopause champions, because I think menopause is where mental health was maybe 8-10 years ago, and a lot of the structures and programs that have been put in place for that can equally be put in place for menopause.
Okay, brilliant. Loretta, thanks a million. We'll come back to you again in a little while, but I found that very interesting. Punam Rane, you're the co-founder and director of Appistoki Ireland. I'm going to chat to you about wellness and your take on it in a second, but I want to get, just as we did with Loretta, a flavour of your own background and to chat about Appistoki Ireland.
So my background is technology. So I did my master's in technology and in innovation from Michael's Moffitt, coming from Mumbai, which you all know is the financial capital of India. I studied, graduated in maths and physics, did my master's in computer science, got headhunted by an Irish company, and that's how I landed in Ireland. Obviously, my entire journey has been more in investment banking in the technology sector. So I worked for banks like Northern Trust, where I spent about 10 years. And I also then was put on a leadership program, and I was sent to India again for 2 years, where I found 2 departments for Northern Trust. And then I moved to Fidelity, where I worked for 2.5 to 3 years before I founded Appistoki Ireland, because having done my master's in innovation, I wanted to do something that would spearhead my knowledge and create something in the technology space. And that's how I found Appistoki. The background to Appistoki is also that having my experience in technology and banking, so Appistoki has about 3 or 4 pillars that we each one lead. We are about 5 directors, and each one has a role to play there. So our company in Singapore looks after Salesforce, pillar of Appistoki. I head Appistoki Ireland. We have 3 directors here. I had the retail banking pillar of Appistoki Ireland, and then there are other 2 directors who also had something called as LifeRay and Salesforce. And then we have the Center of Excellence with about 80 employees in Bangalore, which is core the 2 locations, that Singapore and Ireland, where the major development takes place in Bangalore. So that's how I founded Appistoki in about 3 to 4 years at this stage, I would say. So that's where it is. And if you ask me, there are about 15 employees in Ireland, about 10 employees in Singapore, and like I said, about 80 employees in Bangalore. So if I were to say it is a company which at this stage has grown incrementally, but also a company that has looked after its employees quite well. And I would say that has definitely helped us grow at a pace that we grew. Also, I don't know whether I've said this before, or Mark, you know this, that in 2019, I also ventured into being a local politician. So I got elected as a local councillor for Dublin 15.
Wow.
So that was my journey into politics as well. So you would again ask, did you go into that? So wellness has always meant a great deal for me, because for me, wellness, I know you're talking about mental wellness or physical wellness and financial wellness. For me, I put these into two buckets. One is mental plus physical goes hand in hand, according to me. And that also then leads to your financial aspect of the wellness as well. This is what I have found over my journey, coming from technology into corporations, and then my journey into politics as well. And then you may ask, why politics as well? I'll come back to it, and how I can relate to wellness and what I have experienced or seen in my corporate journey, and now into the political journey as well. So being in this field, in technology, mental health has meant a great deal, because I'm sure you all know, with the current COVID situation and people staying at home, etc. Most of our employees, then we had to get them to work from home and not coming to office. And we also, over the time, found that created something called, as which doesn't come to the fore, a very stressful situation sometimes, which led to mental illness or mental well-being of a person. And this we found during the last 2 years. And that led us to ensure we put in programs in place to look after employees' physical and mental illness, which eventually would take care of their financial matters as well. And these three we found interlinked. So number one we did was to make sure our HR was well geared to handle the employee situation, that we made sure HR put in those programs in place. We started talking to our employees. It wasn't easy, but it was something that was necessary, especially women employees, because they found juggling the act too hard. If you were to say that work from home helps women, it also poses a lot of challenges. And these challenges we found during the pandemic, the last 2 years, it came to the fore. Because sometimes when women used to come to work, I felt that was an outlet for them to interact with their co-workers and sharing their challenges. Sometimes it helped, but staying at home, they weren't able to do that. And I would say that actually brought us or made us more aware that some of these employees needed that help. And so the programs for women was that we started, actually when it was a 5-day work, we started asking them to work for only 4 days and take the 5th day off. There was no salary cuts or anything, but that 5th day was for them to put something in place to either physically enhance their lifestyle or make changes to their lifestyle, so that they are in the 4 days that they are giving us or putting into the workforce, it's a productive working environment for them. So this is a big change. It was challenging, but this is a change that in 4 days. And especially we started this with women, and then you would ask, why not men? We did that for men as well, who had working partners or working wives. So we put in place that the men also take a day off, so that they can help or contribute towards helping their partners or their wives who had work. So remember, everyone had kids. So I could sense that it was a challenge. Primary schools were off. Some of them had to take care of their kids, juggle the act. So I think this did make a lot of change, or brought lifestyle change. And also we got women enrolled in some physical activity classes. That's something that we offered as part of our wellness program. Yoga classes, we paid for that. so that it was some of this initiative led to, I know my other peers or my other competitors or my other companies actually took our wellness program and implemented in their own corporations, because we did see that it made it also brought in trust from the employees. It also brought in something that they were looked after. This thing. So I think we created a very trustworthy relationship between an employer and an employee. This journey made a big difference. And now I would come to your financial aspect side. The financial aspect is something that they need to manage. Maybe for some, it is a day-to-day basis. For some, it's a monthly thing. But this also meant that some of the employees who had not actually given attention to saying how they, obviously we have our insurance and all that, but they had not actually thought that they could be quite young and they could still face challenges for which they need to actually make sure they have some aspect of their savings saved for the medical situation or medical aid. You never can tell, because the last 2 years we have seen that some of the younger, some of my younger friends, like who are 40, have died out of heart attack, and the families were left without knowing how to handle the situation. As part of our HR program, that they put aside some savings for where they are looked after, the medical side of things are looked after. So that would be another aspect. So there were other financial programs which we normally do as part of our HR process, but there were additional ones we added because just the awareness in the last 2 years made us actually pay attention to some of these things. Myself, I'm a runner myself, so that itself everyone knew, and I became a role model for many of them. How do I take care of my wellness? I run every day. When I say I run, it's not about saying I get up and do a 5K. It could be even 21 in the morning. I do run so that role model thing, how do I handle myself in spite of a busy schedule, was something that I always keep talking. Small talks, our weekly meetings, or our we have a quarterly global meetings with everybody. So I just do these small talks just to create this awareness and bring this to some people who don't pay attention to their health. Okay. So that's all I can say.
There's a lot of good stuff there. Can I just pick up on a few points and clarify something for myself for a second? Did you say you run at 1:20 in the morning, or did you say you run 1K in the morning sometimes?
I say I run sometimes 21K in the morning.
21K, good God.
So it all depends on how my day starts. So I did run back-to-back 2 marathons last year. I don't know how that happened, but it did happen.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, that's brilliant. Now, another thing I just want to pick up on, which I think is interesting for the general employee wellness conversation, is that you've taken a lead on a 4-day week, but in targeted sort of situations. What is your experience as a company director now? What's your experience in terms of productivity from the people who took a 4-day week? Was there any small decrease in productivity, or is it something that you would advise other company directors to do?
It benefited me in the sense it made the employees more responsible. Mm-hmm. They started feeling that it's up to them now to fill in that gap that they have for that 5th day that they're missing. Mm-hmm. So that trust. And one thing I've always asked my HR or any of the managers is I don't like micromanagement. That was from day one, which all my employees knew, that they have to step back and make each individual or each employee responsible for the delivery. That 5th day, especially women, felt it that the four days that they gave to the company, they have to make sure that they are giving back in some shape or form. Sometimes I used to find them working long hours, which I used to never encourage, but they felt that it was their responsibility, that the delivery that was supposed to be happening in that week, they finish it, come what may, whatever it is. There was no expectation, but I found the productivity levels rising more than decreasing. And I just felt that that ownership of doing things fell on them rather than us telling them what to do and what not to do. Similarly with men who had partners and who were facing these challenges, they felt that the 4 days that they're giving to the organization has to be sometimes more than 5 days what they were just they were supposed to give. Sometimes I felt the productivity level were too high. And there were days when I had to say, folks, there's no pressure, because sometimes I didn't want them to feel this additional pressure just because the organization is giving them 4 days. But it's not for longer periods. We would ask them, would 6 months suffice? Would 3 months suffice? Some people did 3 months, came back once they had put certain structures in the lifestyle in place. They felt that 3 months that we gave them the 4-day working was good enough. They had everything sorted, and they came back saying, we are ready to work for 5 days. Some women, same thing, that put things in place, the lifestyle in place, came back after 6 months. We left the choice to them, whether it's 3 months or 6 months. Some people who had just had babies, when they came back after maternity leave, after 6 months, in India especially, it's 6 months, we let them have another 6 months. So those kind of things, it did make a difference. And I would encourage more organizations to look at that aspect. And I've always strongly believed, even in my 10 years at Northern Trust, and my 3 years at Fidelity Investments, employees, things that I did or made my corporations put in place through HR, some of these initiatives have really, really helped me in making or building a very strong, high performance team.
Great. Mark, can you give us a sum up on everything you've heard there? Because it sounds to me there's so much from Punam and Loretta in terms of the menopause and taking initiatives like that 4-day week.
So that's fantastic. Yeah, thanks for both contributions there. First of all, I feel inadequate in my, I can't do 2K runs in the morning, so 21K makes me feel like I have to put a bit more effort into my fitness. So congratulations on that, Punam. First of all, I suppose what I was looking at there, it was a word that Loretta used, was taboo. And I think, if that can be used with whether it's menopause or money, there are certain taboos around these subjects. And it's to create a normality around them. And I think Loretta is doing that with awareness of the subject and getting that subject to be talked about a lot more, whether it be menopause or money or other aspects that have taboos to them. So I think that, and of course, as I said to before, there's lots of information out there, is to kind of create the information that people can use quickly within their lives. That word taboo means a lot to me in the sense that, from my financial aspect, I was trying to create a sense of normality about talking about money and to bring it into a normal conversation. And I think that's very important in terms of everything that people do. And again, looking at what Punam was saying, one thing I suppose over the last 6 series that I've found that is very important with employees here, and it's going back to that trust factor. And we're all moving to that relationship where we work on the basis of trust and outcomes as opposed to 9 to 5. Again, it's unusual. It's becoming more usual now that we do that. I found it in my own organization now, just getting used to that concept of people not being there and trusting and not trying to micromanage all those kind of things. So I think that area of trusting and outcomes gives you that opportunity to give people more wellness opportunities for themselves. As Punam said, the 4-day work week, what a fantastic idea that you can, you can qualify yourself what you need to do within 4 days, and then do something for your family, your relationships, your health, whatever it is on that other day. Positives that have come out of COVID is we've opened ourselves to all these new different ways of doing things. And I think, look, if we can see, looking back now over the last 18 months and see some positives out of it, I think that's one of them.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's been a great conversation, Mark. Loretta, employers, I presume that if employers are listening and they're curious about finding out ways to maybe help their employees through menopausal difficulties, they can contact the Menopause Hub directly. That'll be the case there, would it? Oh, sorry, you're on mute again there.
The dreaded mute. I was so fascinated by the conversation, but I was lost in listening to that. Yeah, I mean, we have a section on our website which is called Menopause in the Workplace, and you can find out a lot about that. I think some of the things, so the menopausehub.ie, but I think the thing in the past, a lot of the wellness programs have focused on the physicality of things. And I think as the mental health issue has come on board and we've opened up that taboo topic, there's been a move into the whole area of more holistic, so also the mental wellness. And I know that the data says that employees who've had access to wellness programs use fewer sick days, have higher job satisfaction, and demonstrate higher levels of morale than those organizations that don't offer wellness programs. So I think, the whole thing about wellness is, it's everybody wants to, you bring your best self to work. And I do think that you can perform at your best if you're feeling your best, if you're enjoying where you're working, if you're motivated by what you're doing, if you're working with good colleagues, good line managers, and so on. And when I take it into the space of, so it's a win-win for employers. It's like, a kind of a no-brainer business case. I think when you take it into, say, specifically menopause, what we've done through some research is that we found that 12% of women gave up work. And so the perimenopause, the lead up to that, starts in the 40s. So this isn't an older woman's condition. And every woman will go through menopause. So that's 50% of the population. And the other 50% may be impacted by it. But from an employer's perspective, 12% left the workforce, 43% considered giving up work or cutting back. There was 22% lost 3 days or more from work, and 39% lost time from work because of their menopausal symptoms. And if you take that and you look at that, you think of productivity, you think of, what's been lost by the employer. 60% of women said their performance affected a little, and 30% said their performance was affected a lot. So if you take all of that, it's in the employer's interests as well as the employee's interests to offer some what we would call reasonable adjustments or reasonable accommodations to help those individuals so that they can bring their best self to work. And it benefits. It's a no-brainer, it really is. And that's without bringing legislation into it, because there's going to be a legislative risk around gender equality, around age equality, and around disability, because in some cases in the UK they've ruled in tribunals that the menopausal woman, because of their chronic symptoms, were seen as having a disability. So there's a legislative risk. But if you take the carrot and the stick approach, the carrot is all about keeping women in the workplace. We know it costs much more to recruit somebody new than it does to retain staff. So it's about talent attraction and retention. It's about employer branding. It's about health and safety at its most basic. And it's about performance. So you can see there that, it's a win-win once again for menopausal women and for the employer. And I'm sure there's other areas. I know there's been a focus on, miscarriage, on a focus on fertility within organizations, and bereavement, and so on, and an understanding that there's an impact from these life events that can affect employees, and that the better they are supported through this, the more that they can continue to be there.
Brilliant. And Punam, from your point of view, maybe a last word on it and wellness in general. I think Loretta has certainly articulated great reasons why employers should be mindful of these issues and helping their employees through it. It just occurs to me we've got two great women on the panel today, and Punam, you're very much in a leadership position. So do you find from that women lead differently than the way men lead, or is it similar?
No, there is a bit of difference there. Men by default have this tendency of always saying they need to lead from the front.
Yeah.
Women don't, and that's my biggest issue and problem. So when someone the other day asked me, I said, when I enter a room, I'm 5'7". When I enter the room, and then I add 3-4 inches of heels to it. So when I enter the room, I want to make sure that I never go unnoticed, right? I want women to be that way. Because they have everything, there's nothing missing, but this mindset of saying, I need to always lead from the front. But let me tell you one thing, the physical and mental aspect is the biggest thing that brings this mindset. And that's why I keep saying to everyone I meet, maybe some people at heart, that physical fitness eventually also leads to mental wellness. And that's something that women, because they are so busy, because they have to juggle so many acts, because I agree with Loretta that there is this other physical aspects, the whole physical journey that women go through, right? To add to that, it's a baggage. There's all these things. Sometimes women get so caught up that they forget that their own identity, their own fitness, their own thing is something that they need to focus on. But I'm not saying men don't. Men also have some other aspects to deal with, but there is a bit of a challenge, other challenges in that. So if I were to talk about myself, how would I address it? And that's why I said the program for our own company are different to the program for men. The challenges are different. And we have something called as exclusivity contracts kind of thing that we put in place, where when they share their personal experiences, that's all kept confidential. And we do hire other external organizations once a year to talk to our employees if they have issues, so that they can confidentially talk about it and then put in programs, HR programs in place. That's something that we've done very successfully and very well, because I feel that eventually is something that each and every organization, if they want to retain, remember today attrition rates are high because the world has become more global. You can hire anywhere and everywhere at this point in time. Work from home has helped that. But at the same time, we forget that this also there are other aspects that we need to handle. That is the wellness of an employee. So because they are virtual, we sometimes will fail to understand that there are things behind the scenes that are happening, and maybe we might lose out there. So this is something that every organization, like there are big organizations like Google, Amazon, and their employees are virtual at this point in time. Many of their employees are virtual, but what's happening behind the scenes is something I think is getting more awareness. And that's what I would like more and more organizations to focus on. Again, like I said, I'm coming to a little bit of financial side. Remember, the last 2 years also have posed some financial challenges to many employees, because some employees have lost jobs as well. So remember that losing job leads to financial stress and mental stress, which eventually leads to physical stress as well. So we have also found some of the employees that we hired had lost jobs. So when they came to us, they were very demotivated. Some of them hadn't had jobs for 3 to 4 months. And if it's a male or a person whose family is dependent on him earning and they're dependent on his earnings, they have had stressful times. 4 months is not easy to have maintained the whole financial balance there, right? So no salaries coming in. So in that time, they have come to us with very less motivation, and we have had to bring them over this journey. So that's taken us about 3 months, but we have had empathy. And if someone has been a fantastic career in the past, we have looked at that aspect and said that give that person 3 months and he will come up to speed, or he will be in a better position. We have had those tricky situations ourselves. So I wouldn't judge everything looking at a person's ability. There are some behind the scenes that we have also looked at. And I know I personally, when it comes to employee hiring, the last word is mine. And so the last round of hiring process always goes through me. And that's why I think I have more openness towards what a person is feeling, or maybe I can relate to it more, which sometimes it might not be possible for my HR department. And I think I've hired some people who have been in challenging situations, and I'm thankful that I made the right decisions in that case.
Okay, great. Mark, over to you for a last summation. And maybe just before we do, Mark, one thing I wanted to pick up from your intro, that you said that even millionaires sometimes don't have financial wellness. Could you explain a little bit more what you mean about that?
Yeah, look, over the last 20 to 30 years, I've dealt with people in various different aspects in their life. And, some people are making small amounts of money, some people have lots of money, and it just doesn't guarantee that you're happy. So I think that you need to understand what you want first. And this comes into the awareness area, where you kind of understand your current financial situation. And it's funny, a lot of people, when you ask them about goals and stuff like that, they just don't know how to express them. And sometimes it might be, you need to talk to a coach, or you need to ask somebody that can actually take it out of you, what you really want and what's important to you and what are your values. Those things sound kind of fluffy, but they can be real. And, it's amazing how so many people who are very wealthy are still not happy. So they don't have financial wellness. They have wealth, but they don't have financial wellness. So for me, it's important for people to go through those couple of steps there to kind of understand really what they want and where they're currently at. And I think that's across the goal there with it, Loretta and Punam as well. I think awareness is the first aspect of everything we do in these areas, whether it's menopause or physical health or mental health or financial wealth or financial health. These things, you just have to sit down and be real about your own things, about what you're thinking. And, I was looking at a documentary the last day, and they said, it's about your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your results. So we all have thoughts, we all have inner beliefs about, like mine might be, I'm not good with money. And the next thing I'd say, so that makes me feel bad. So what do I do about it? I go out and I buy some stuff. I go do some shopping to make myself feel better. Then the credit card comes back, the bill comes back, and I feel bad again. And I've kind of realigned to myself that I am bad with money. So it's like a loop, so that you have to really kind of become aware of your own thought process or your own subconscious thinking. And when people think about finances, they think it's about a spreadsheet, but maybe it isn't,
Yes, yeah. Well, no, listen, I told you those things about myself in confidence, Mark. So
yeah. I have the non-disclosure agreement here.
Listen, I want to thank everybody who are not only our panelists today who've been excellent, Loretta Dignam from the Menopause Hub and Punam Rane from Appistoki, Ireland, but also our panelists throughout the entire series of Series 1, which we're now bringing sadly to a close, but we will have another series again starting next September. And especially Mark Corkery of Premier Life, thank you very much. And looking forward to the next series, Mark.
Definitely, can't wait to learn so much in this one, and so much to learn again.
Brilliant. So thank you
for having us.
Thank you. And until next time, slán.